Hello, everybody. So, as said, SkyEye is a software which was developed in collaboration between the Computer Science Lab and the Archaeology Research Unit of the University of Tours in France. The goal is to detect archaeological structures in LiDAR Dataset. This tool has already been presented last year at the CITERES by Clément Laplaige. But the previous presentation was focused more on the technical issues, while I'm going to try to show you how it can be used by the user, and more particularly how I use it as a PhD researcher in archaeology. So the tool was first developed as part of the SOLiDAR research project, which ended in 2018 and started with a LiDAR acquisition of more than 300 square kilometers of data, both from forest and open landscape. We discovered more than 900 kilometers of linear structures and almost 1,000 punctual ones. Therefore, because it's a rather tedious task to vectorize everything by hand, we thought it would be a good idea to work on a way to automatize the detection of archaeological structures. For this presentation, I will therefore use two case studies, which are here with the big red squares, from the SOLiDAR project, and another one on the Orion's forest, which is also situated in the center region of France. Very shortly, the tool works with SVM, a support vector machine architecture. You enter source images as 8-bit raster images, and you enter raster images of the selected features as binary images, 2-bit. And so that the tool knows which pixel is supposed to be from which structures. Then it generates in output a probability map of every pixel of the raster image you want to predict, with probability matrix corresponding to the chances for each pixel to be part of each class. For this presentation, we decided to show an example of the tool with two types of archaeological structures. Embankments, which are linear structures, and charcoal burning platforms. Embankments are usually represented on the GIS via polylines. As you can see on this slide, they are rather small in height, but they form complex networks. All the images which will be shown during these presentations are from a local relief model visualization, which is the one we use mostly in our work. And charcoal piles, so we've already talked quite a bit about it, but they are round structures with an outer ridge, as you can see here. Outer ridge which is usually a ditch, but can also have a small embankment as well. As a user of the SkyEye tool, the first and most important step is the creation of an efficient running dataset for the tool to work on. And for this, we need both 8-bit images as a base, which are the images here on the left, and 2-bit images of vectorized structures, which represent each pixel from a structure. Because vectorizing every structure is in itself, vectorizing them as polygons and then exporting them in 2-bit is in itself kind of tedious task, I tried to find a way to automatize this process via a Python script, which had the goal of semi-automatically creating the images required for the training datasets in SkyEye. we already had 10,000 of structures vectorized, but only as polylines or points. And it was not possible to directly extract them as 2 bits. However, it seemed like a good idea to use these vectorized structures and find a way to transform them into polygons. So the first step is to get, for the output images, a buffer of the right size, which is here on the screen, which will be used to keep every raster image in the end. Afterwards, we also have to transform our input shapes into 2-bit rasters, which we usually do by hand, as I showed right on the previous slide. But I developed last year a protocol to measure the width of the linear structures, which I used again to create a buffer around each embankment. And for the punctual structures, the measurements were done by hand because they are way less numerous. In the end, we get 3 images, 8-bit and 2 bits, and we keep them, all of them, with the same buffers or the same extent, which can then be multiplied by the number of training samples we wanted. With this kind of process, it is extremely easy to create hundreds of training images in a few minutes. However, the main problem is on the quality of the images. Here is an example of automatically created 8-bit and 2-bit images for embankments. You can see on the left the base image and on the right the 2-bit image. While the general structure is correct, with the biggest linear structures being wider, it is not close enough to reality to be used as is in SkyEye. And when we try to use this, SkyEye is not able to recognize the structure afterwards. It's a bit better with charcoal piles because they are simpler structures and they were measured by hand. So SkyEye is able to work with it, but still it has less quality than when it's done by hand. Here's an example of comparison between, on the left, the results of using SkyEye for detection of embankments with a qualitative dataset of about 10 images and a quantitative dataset of 100 of images, but automatically generated. They can seem at first look quite similar, but actually here it really detects the embankments, while here it detects mostly the ditches around the embankments, and it also misses on a lot of them. So while it's very easy to create hundreds of images which have the technical requirements we need for working with SkyEye, the results are not good enough to work with this kind of learning dataset. However, we still need to work on this kind of ideas, and we will continue on trying to find a way to create bigger datasets. So I will now talk about the results from using the software to detect archaeological structures with always a quality dataset. We used it with a training dataset made from the SOLiDAR case study, where we had the structures vectorized by hand. And the predicting images are from the Orion's forest, so another case study, where we didn't do the job of searching and looking for every structure already. So there are two different LiDAR with different pixel density. The first one has a 50 centimeter LiDAR per pixel, and the second one 1 meter. Here, on this slide, you can see the results, binary results for the detection of embankments, which works quite well. We had around 70% recognition rate. But I wanted to focus this presentation more on the shulker piles, where it works quite more badly, let's say. As of now, we do not have a good enough learning dataset for the shulker kilns to be efficiently detected by the software. Here on this slide, in black, is everything the software thinks is a shulker pile. So this is completely unreadable and unusable. But if we show it as a probability matrix map, we have some interesting results which are displayed. Here you have the probability percentages stretched from red to yellow, which means that red, the software thinks that there is a structure, and yellow means he thinks there is none. Of course, this is still not working how we would like it. We would like to have big red dots right on our shulker piles. But we do see something if we take a closer look. It actually recognizes the ditch parts as shulker piles, which are here highlighted in red, and the elevated part as nuts, which means that when we look at the screen, we still recognize the shulker piles. And if we compare it to what we actually saw beforehand on the same image, it showed us some that we didn't find. In blue, you have the ones which we recognized before, and then we missed some here and here, which, if we look at the base image, we could have maybe found, but we didn't take a closer look. This doesn't mean that all of the structures which are recognized are shulker burning platforms, but they do have the morphology similarities. They have this elevation in the middle and the ditch ring around. So they are potential shulker burning platform. Now, what happens if you try to use the software somewhere where there is a lot of noise, with small elevated mounds everywhere, like on this image? This is where I think the software really starts to show quite a lot of potential. As you can see on the right, every little elevation which is on the LiDAR on the DEM is considered potential shulker pile, as shown in the yellow or green dots in the middle. But a few of them have also a ring around it, which is recognized by the software, but is almost completely unseeable by hand and directly on the local relief model. In black, you have the ones which are just elevation, and then you have some which are elevation in the middle in green, then a very small ring, and then again a small elevation. These differences are so small that they are not seen on the regular DEM, even with local relief model visualization. but the software is able to recognize them. Here is a section of this Sharker pie, where you can see the differences are frankly, it's a ditch of maybe 3 centimeters, but it actually exists. So even if it's very small, we shouldn't exclude them as potential Sharker pie beforehand. We need to do more research, but for the first time since we started using the tool, it seems that the software is not only making things quicker, it also shows us structures that we couldn't see simply by hand. In conclusion, some main points were the pixel density, which was different between the learning dataset and the predicted images, which did not modify the results of the tool. It still worked exactly the same way. Secondly, the construction of an accurate and efficient learning dataset is, of course, the most important step and is one which we continue to focus on. And I'm very glad you had this presentation just before, where we have basically kind of the same problematics going on. And finally, we saw that having a probability map rather than a binary answer can really help us a lot, mostly on the Sharker pies. But we need to continue the work on these particular structures, and we need now to verify the results on the ground. Thank you for that.